Good afternoon. Airline loyalty programs have long been an important part of the marketing mix for carriers around the world. But during the pandemic, they've assumed new value and new importance. And as we move out of the pandemic, at least that's what we all hope, loyalty programs are going to be of great value in bringing us back towards normal state of affairs. Here to discuss the role and the value of loyalty systems, we have two airlines and three vendors of technology. We've got Michael Covey from United Airlines. We've got Mohammed Jamshir from Goldfare. We've got Nicola Arnese from Amadeus IT Group. David Glantz from Loyalty Partner Solutions. And Marcus Puffer from IBS Software. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And I'd like to start by looking back to, I guess, the dark days of the pandemic and how your loyalty programs, as well as all the things that you were asking them to do before, became perhaps a source of revenue for you at a time when you weren't making flight revenue. I'd like to come to the two airline representatives first and then maybe talk to the technology vendors afterwards. So, Mohammed, in Goldfare, did you establish revenue streams from your loyalty program, or did you actually use existing revenue streams and maybe push them a bit further during the pandemic?
First of all, good evening to everyone from the Kingdom of Bahrain. During the dark days of the pandemic, it was very different for us at Goldfare, one of the only airlines globally that continued to fly. We kept on adapting our loyalty program, watching our passengers still fly from the east to the west, getting people home safely. So we maintained operations throughout that time. So we adapted our program as the times changed. Part of it was to maintain everyone's loyalties. Part of it was to use it for revenue streams. Part of it was to extend some more empathetic type of programs to our passengers, so giving them upgrades with lesser miles, letting them use their miles for flights that were a bit more uncomfortable for them to take. So we used it as an arm to gain more loyalty, honestly, during this period. Rather than try to benefit so much revenue from it, we wanted to capture their loyalty more and utilize that in order to get some more revenue out of them.
Okay, that's interesting. Michael, are you with us? I know you've been having some technical glitches.
Yeah,
I know United has established some partnerships with its loyalty program that maybe are bringing you some benefits.
Sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
I know United Airlines has established some partnerships with NonAir vendors in its loyalty program, and I guess that brought you some benefits during the times of reduced flight activity in the pandemic.
Yeah, I thank you very much, first of all, for having me, and apologize for all the technical difficulties. I actually moved offices to be closer to a Wi-Fi receptor. But you're right. You know, we've worked really hard on ensuring that our partners are in sync with sort of the United brand and the United experience. And during the pandemic, that was no different. You know, right at the start of the pandemic, we brought on partners like Allo Moves for people who are at home that could find some relaxation at home, and then really leveraged some of our partners to do at-home events. We worked with Chase and Visa to bring you know, cocktails to people's houses, dinners to people's houses where they could get together. You know, as we saw demand shift, we certainly looked at our partners to help bring our global airline community back together. You know, we also worked with our magazine, our in-flight magazine partner, to send those magazines into people's houses instead of having them in our seat backs. So extensive partnerships were really key to making sure that United was front in mind and that we understood that demand was lower, and we're going to find ways to engage our members how they needed to be engaged at the time when flying was not an option for some of them.
Okay, so turning to the technology vendors, if I just start in the order that you're on my screen right now. So David, what are the issues around your airline loyalty system customers establishing partnerships with non-air companies? Are there technological standards that make that make that straightforward, or is each time you do it a new adventure for you?
So first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for the invitation, and thank you for taking part in this panel. So it's a great question, because I think, or at least we in LPS think, that a vibrant partner ecosystem, especially in the non-air area, is a key success factor for our clients, but also for the whole market in airline loyalty. It depends a bit from region to region, but in general, especially during the pandemic, the non-air, the relevance of the non-air partnership increased, and the trend of turning the old FFPs into more travel lifestyle-oriented programs increased. And let's say, as we have our roots in the non-air retail industry from our own program Payback, especially the onboarding of all the non-air partners. We at least have seen it, yeah. For sure, you have if you're thinking about retail industry, you have to have new challenges, because there are POS systems to be integrated. But let's say, having this knowledge in-house from all the other industry, for sure it helps to support our airline clients to get into this business and to integrate with all these non-air partners.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you. Marcus, IBS, in contrast, I guess, to LPS, IBS is an airline specialist. So have you found challenges in integrating the non-air partners into the loyalty programs?
No, I don't think that we have faced challenges, and welcome all to the panel and the session. As David said, and I think that is an industry trend, the airlines try to become more lifestyle programs. Some of them try to move from an FFP to an FBP, to a frequent buyer program. And those ecosystems, I fully second that, are important. From the need that we saw from our customers in the various regions, is and has always been, is agility, faster time to market. And in times like this, I think that is the key. Launching partnerships in a short period of time without these lengthy processes that you need from technology to make that real and make that live. And the second aspect that we saw is that new types of partnerships have been demanded and requested, and supporting those, I think, is a key to success, right? You take that example of the partnership between Air Canada and Starbucks, which incentivizes going out and getting your coffee. But not just that, the linking of two programs through account linking are new requirements to define new types of partnerships. And if you're able to deliver that fast, I think our customers, the airlines, see the upside, and their transformation is supported.
Okay, and finally, Nicola, what does Amadeus see in this respect, in the respect of both establishing partnerships and then using those partnerships to drive some degree of revenue in a time that would otherwise be very very difficult? You may be muted.
After 2 years, I'm still muted. Thanks for the question. And I think COVID simply accelerate these needs to create the partnership ecosystem around the airlines brand, where the loyalty programs, of course, are the main drivers of this. We have seen during the COVID airlines basically rewarding their customers, even with all the fleet grounded. And this is simply an amazing experience that the industry proved, and now really needs to leverage. Of course, this is creating another complexity when the post-COVID and the operation will be back. that all these earning opportunities that are creating retention in the customer base of the airlines. At one point, these airlines, these passengers, these consumers, they want to burn, and most probably they want to burn on traveling. So this means that the airlines, they also need to be equipped in the way they create much more dynamic and intelligence reward capabilities. And this is where I think solutions like the ones we have and the ones we have implemented with other airlines, starting from Air Canada, this really brings the new wave of considering the reward part an integrated part of the value proposition and the offer of the airlines.
Okay, that's interesting, and it puts me in mind of the theme of some of this morning's sessions when we were talking about new approaches to revenue management, and I think it's probably true that the loyalty program, certainly the burn part of the loyalty program, has to be integrated with your revenue management now.
Absolutely.
Is that something that you're very conscious of in your day-to-day work, say, Michael, at United?
I will get off of mute after 2 years of realizing where the button is. Yeah, it absolutely is, and I think even pre-pandemic, we have been highly integrated with our revenue management colleagues, and we have revenue management systems integrated in our award offerings. It is one of the best things that the airlines have to offer is award space for our loyal members, and working with our revenue management to make to balance this out is so important for us that we literally build systems around this. Sometimes we work with external partners, sometimes we build them in-house, but the integration of air redemption and revenue management is significant, and it requires us to have really good relationships with our revenue management colleagues downstairs.
Okay, and I would guess it's the same in Goldfare, maybe with the added challenge or complexity that most of your traffic in Goldfare is Sixth Freedom traffic. So the origin and destination points are outside of your home market, and you've got a fairly complex revenue management setup to start with. So adding in loyalty redemptions to that mix probably means your revenue management people are taxed with keeping it all straight.
Yeah, absolutely. And also during the pandemic, like most airlines globally, we extended the expiry dates of our members' miles. So we had a lot more miles that we needed to burn. So when destinations started to open up, and also the communication method that we had throughout 2020 was extending the miles to our passengers and to our members, and extending their tier points so that they would retain their loyalty status. When the time came that airports started to open up, and the Middle East has seen a lot of the destinations around us, especially in the short haul front, open up really quickly. So such as Dubai or Cairo, they're very big destinations for our passengers. People wanted to use those miles. So we wanted to gain revenue in one arm, and we also wanted to burn a lot of the liabilities that we had because of the miles programs. So it was a really fun discussions that we kept on having with our revenue management team to get that balance in place.
Okay, and you've actually raised a question that I was planning to raise anyway, so that this is good. Sure. We're all singing from the same hymn sheet, and that is some of the innovation that you've had to do as a result of the conditions around the pandemic has required flexibility and maybe innovation within your loyalty system at a pace that maybe we haven't needed to see before. And I'm going to look at the technology vendors, maybe start with David. How has LPS stepped up to that challenge of maybe a more rapid cadence of change than you've been used to before? Have you been able to keep up with it? Have you been able to do anything particularly interesting in terms of innovations?
So we tackle this topic from two angles, yeah. So it was already prior to the pandemic. So we set a completely new innovation department, including processes and including, let's say, responsibilities in charge, which let's say collect all these trends from the market and think how to transform these into technologies on the one hand and into benefits from our customer side. On the other hand, and I think this is mostly driven by the pandemic, is that there's a very close relationship between the clients and the vendors is needed. So I think the pandemic deepened the partnership approach, and therefore we are in much closer discussions with our clients about their business ideas and how they should be implemented and what we can do as a technology provider in order to support these ideas and to bring them live fast and with hopefully with configuration only that is done in minutes or days. Yeah.
And do you think these new approaches, these new ways of working will continue after the pandemic is history and we all hopefully forget about it?
I think so. I hope so, let's say, because it's more agile, it's much more open and open-minded, and let's say this vendor client relationships are somehow broken and brought to a new level as two partners which are discussing more or less on a similar level. I think this is good for our industry.
Okay, and I think that's actually a theme again that's come through from some of the sessions this morning, that where a vendor and an airline are able to work very effectively together, it multiplies the effectiveness that they have. Marcus, what about IBS? Have you seen an increase in the rate of innovation within your loyalty solutions during the pandemic?
Well, I think we have certainly seen an increase on how our solution is being used in different forms that we haven't seen before. And I think the topic of innovation and speed to market has two aspects to it. On the one hand, what we see and what we experience is that the need for that transformation, for that agility, has really led to many of the industry's players come up with investment decisions that were actually surprising to us in certain instances. And what we try to do is now help them with a digital transformation process so that they come faster to that point of innovation. And we have Mohammed on the call, and I can say the speed that Goldfare is transforming, and we are trying to help them in that transformation, is just breathtaking, right? And a good sign of that collaboration that David has also mentioned. It's a close work to bring that to life. On the other hand, for us, a close partnership with our customers is always a core element of our approach to the business. We don't see ourselves as a platform provider. We see ourselves more as a solution provider, where the solution is jointly worked out with our customers and clients, and we make sure that what we offer them as our core platform is also used at the max. And then if you then see that, transformations like Qantas did with launching their Points Club program, as I mentioned earlier, frequent buyer program, within a short period of time, exactly addressing the needs of this pandemic time period, shows that innovation can come from within. And of course, from the strong partnership that we have.
Okay, thanks. And Nicola, Amadeus famously has enormous resources in its R&D capability, but sometimes having such a huge amount of resource means that you're maybe not as agile as some of the smaller providers. How has Amadeus addressed the need for rapid innovation during this time? We seem to have lost Nicola. Okay, pressing on. I'm sure he will be back. We do seem to have had a couple of little technical glitches this afternoon. I want to talk about how...
This is, by the way, a really good opportunity to remind people that getting on planes and being face-to-face helps. So I'll just put that little plug in there for business travel.
and you're absolutely right. And just jumping ahead to something we're going to be talking about tomorrow, next year this conference will be live in person in London. But you heard it here first, folks. Nicola, we lost you for a moment, but I was going to ask about how Amadeus, with its enormous depth of resource in R&D, manages to be agile in addressing the needs, in addressing rapidly changing needs during a time like we've just lived through.
Yeah, let me just being big does not mean to be an elephant. You can also be big and be agile. The way we are getting organized, I think we are one of the fewest tech company in the industry that have adopted SAFe as a methodology of work, which is gives the agility but at scale. And that said, I mean, if we narrow down our army of engineers that we have, I mean, when we narrow down into the loyalty, we have a dedicated team in Istanbul. And out of there, we run more than 40 airlines just for the loyalty system. Plus, we have additional 40 that are powering our reward solutions. So the way we manage innovation from the branch office in Istanbul is through the creation of competency center. Basically, cluster of airlines or dedicated as dedicated teams, and this creates a big expertise and a big knowledge sharing across the customers that we have. When you have 200 engineers that are focusing and are skilled on the loyalty domain, this is an asset rather than a constraint. If I can use some example that we have seen beyond the usual ones that extra partners, of course, this is the COVID just accelerated, and honestly, the solution that are available in the market enable this. I don't think any solution has improved just to plug in new partners. What we have seen, on the other hand, is that in terms of innovation, how the AI and the data science components has been plugged into this world. We have seen airlines asking us services around data science to cluster and segment better the customer, to create more dynamic segmentation up to the one-to-one. That, of course, does not mean that the airlines have created many more tiers, but within the tiers, it's obvious that there are micro segmentation, and we have seen airlines asking for this, and the translation you don't see in a wow public effect, but you see how airlines have been capable to drill down, deep down, going to micro segmentation, the offer that they want to design. So that's where I have seen innovation. I mean, and when you are quite large like Amadeus, sorry if I insist, it's more a plus rather than a constraint.
Okay, I'm obviously well aware that the resource that Amadeus has is a huge benefit, but I just wonder whether sometimes being big can also mean being a little bit
of course,
less flexible. I want to move on to what might seem to be a fairly esoteric question, but I think it's one that's important and is getting a lot of attention in other circles outside the airline industry. And that's the whole area of online privacy and data protection, and the way that it fits with the use of loyalty systems and the use of, as Nicola just said, artificial intelligence, data science in your businesses. One of the fundamentals of data privacy legislation, such as GDPR in Europe, is that you can only use data for the purposes for which the customer gave it to you. And where you're using artificial intelligence to to aggregate data from many different sources and put them together and do innovative things within your business, are you in danger of falling foul of the data protection legislation? And as I say, I know this is a fairly esoteric and technical question, but I think it is going to be important going forward. I wonder, Nicolo, do you want to take that first? Because I know that Amadeus has done some thinking about this.
Yeah, this is also where I see the loyalty, one of the dimensions of the evolution of loyalty. I call loyalty also a consent platform, because and this is something powerful that the airlines have. In a couple of years, the world will change again because Google will introduce new rules, and we have all this new generation which is really used to share data for value in exchange. So today, we believe we are within our loyalty solutions. We have an area that is focusing on all of the customer 360, and this is where we are deep diving in the way to manage in a protected way the data. And this comes also together the partnership that we just signed with recently with Microsoft. This is another area of opportunities where we can leverage all the asset of whatever it can be the future of the consumer experience. I personally believe, and in Amadeus, it's a bit the direction we're taking, that the future of loyalty will be extended beyond the simple earn and burn. But if you imagine how the COVID has accelerated the using of Teams or Zoom, things like this, why those platforms cannot be connected directly with your booking self-booking tool or with your loyalty system. So I think what is happening in the future is quite amazing. But what is really critical on how you manage the data of the consumer, and how do you make that those data of the consumer are in control of the consumer, because this is the game changer. You can use the data as long as the data are in control of the consumer. And then it's really up to the airlines and the brand ecosystem to benefit of that, which is something that I would not underestimate. This business is not only about technology. Technology, yes, of course, we play a big role as an enablement, but then there is all the marketing layer that needs to be addressed as well. Otherwise, you have a big Ferrari, but in the wrong path. That's the way we see.
Okay, so the two airlines we have here are both based outside of the European Union, so you're not directly impacted by GDPR, but obviously you both fly into European Union, and so you need to be aware of it. Is this something that is discussed within your airline in terms of how you're using customer data? Maybe Mohammed first, and then we'll come to Michael.
Absolutely. I mean, we are a GDPR compliant organization. Everything that we do when we run campaigns, because I'm also in charge of marketing as well as the digital transformation as well with Marcus, and he knows the work that we do together, which is awesome. So we are a GDPR compliant airline, and we've learned a lot on the restrictions of GDPR, and I think we're moving into an era right now of the death of the cookies. So third-party cookies might be more impactful than the introduction of GDPR for all airlines globally, just because we rely a lot on the data that we receive from our customers on these platforms. You know, it allows us to have a lot more insights into our customers, allow us to fine-tune the customer journey in real time. So we are not a stranger to GDPR, but I feel like the impact of the cookieless future will be felt across airlines globally.
Okay, and Michael, for a US-based carrier, is this something that's top of mind at the moment, or is it a treat for the future for you?
It's not my area of expertise. We have a great marketing team and our legal team work hand in hand to make sure that we are also compliant with all of the regulations out there, including GDPR and US-based regulations too. But what I can tell you is, sorry, I don't know if I'm still here. I think this pushes a lot of the US companies to be really smart with their marketing and offer the right and put the right offers in front of right people, so people will opt in and they seek out the offers that we're having. And that pushes us a lot to make things more personalized and to make things and to push the envelope. So I think, again, this is not my area of expertise, but I will say that we absolutely work really, really hard to make customers want to allow us to use their data to put the right offer in front of them at the right time, and it generates that opt-in community that we can talk with a little bit more openly and easily with.
Okay, thanks. David or Marcus, have you got any observations
Sorry,
on?
I can't hear you, so there must be something wrong with my volume. Hold on a second.
So, David or Marcus, do you have any observations on the impact of data protection legislation, data privacy issues? Maybe Marcus first, then David.
Well, of course, we have to make sure that all of our customers have the ability to be compliant to data privacy rules. And that is not just GDPR. Those are rules that in most cases are similar to GDPR, but have regional flavors. So that is one of the core requirements. But I think it's also a big opportunity for loyalty programs, because if people really get more worried about what is happening with their data, and get maybe less willing to provide information, what better than a loyalty program to offer something in return and get these opt-ins that allow you then to really communicate with the customers, use their information, use their data. So I think the role of loyalty or customer engagement programs in the future, in terms of managing the relationship, the consent of a customer by also offering something in return, it will be growing and will be getting more importance, as they may be the only source of more detailed, in-depth information about the customers. And I think that's where we then play a role as providers to help our customers utilize and leverage that.
That makes perfect sense to me. If you want my personal data, you need to give me something of value in return. David, are you seeing the same sort of trend?
So very well said, Marcus. So let's say, as a provider from Germany, I wouldn't say that, let's say, GDPR and all this data privacy regulations in the different countries is a bad thing. It rather empowers the consumers, the members, to, let's say, take care on their data. And we as loyalty people, we know how to handle the carrot on the stick and to influence people to make crazy things like I don't know, mileage runs. And I think we have to act in the same way to influence people and to convince people to give us their data and to allow us to work with the data, to get the consent, and at the end to create a higher value, a higher relevance of the program, and a higher value for the members itself from the program. And if the members understand, okay, this I have to give them the consent, I have to give them the data in order to get something back, then I'm pretty sure that they will give the opt-in.
Okay, thanks. We had a question from the audience a few minutes ago, and I think it is interesting, and maybe the two airlines can respond on this. Would you say that your customers are now more concerned about COVID security, health, and general confidence in flying than they are in frequent flyer benefits? Or do you think the value of the frequent flyer benefits is still there, very much at forefront of mind? Michael,
I don't mind starting. Michael, just because you seemed frozen from my side.
Yeah. No, I think it's look. I think it's a good question, but I think there are two independent thoughts on there. I don't think, from United's perspective, safety is significantly more important than a healthy loyalty program. it is our top, like of the top things that we work on, safety is number one. It is the first question that we're asked in our employee surveys. It's the first thing we think about when we come into the office: safety, safety, safety. You saw United took a lead with vaccines for its employees. We have a travel ready center to make sure that our members are following the rules of the specific areas in which they're traveling. So for United, safety is absolutely number one. But that being said, safety is about investing in the customer and investing in your employees. And we do that with the loyalty program too. So that's where these things are tied. And you're going to see United continue to do things that are safe, reliable, engaging, right for the business, right for the member. So I can tell you, last night I was at a dinner with about 100 of our top tier premier members in Texas. And many of them came up and said, we love United, we love Mileage Plus, but above that, we love what United is doing in the area of vaccines, whether it's being the first airline to bring them to the U.S., whether it's the first airline to mandate them so that when people are on the plane, they feel safer. That's something that I take a lot of pride in, but that's absolutely of the utmost importance, significantly more important than running a healthy loyalty program. But they're not mutually exclusive. So I think that they coexist. And it's something that we take a lot of pride in. We want our loyal members to feel as safe on board as possible.
Yeah, I thanks for that, Michael, because I'm not sure I accept the premise of the question. I think you can be concerned and care about both things, and they're not exclusive. Mohammed, would you agree with that from Goldfare's point of view?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Michael's comments in here, because safety is always at top of mind of every single airline. It's the first thing we think of when we go into work. It's the last thing we think of when we leave work. And safety was the biggest driver for us when we generated all of our campaigns throughout 2020. We started with introducing the gown on board for all of our crew. We then moved on to releasing that our entire crew members were vaccinated 100% from flight deck to ground operations. And now we've moved away. We've started this new phase where the gown is no longer used on board, and there is just a mask and gloves. However, throughout the entire time, we need to understand that what was happening globally. Globally, we kept on hearing social distancing, physical distancing, keep it 2 meters apart from everybody. So we've noticed that our members have seen our safety on board and have wanted to fly on board with Goldfare. And we've noticed that our members have burned a lot of their miles in order to upgrade themselves, utilize our business class cabins, our premium cabins. There's a lot more revenue being driven to our premium cabins due to this communication that we had, and it was kind of complementary with what was happening in the world. So we noticed that our members really appreciated that they could use their miles and the benefits that they had in order to keep it in the same line as the COVID regulations that were happening globally.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, everybody. As always happens in these discussions, time is running away with us. So I just want to wrap up by asking each of you to give one thought for what is coming next in loyalty. What is the next important development in the field of loyalty? And I will ask you just to do it in a few seconds. So I'm going to go around the screen as I see it. So I'm going to start with David.
So based on our research and based on, let's say, a project we are running internally, we see the biggest threat for the airlines from the area of sustainability. So we know from research and from own research that more than 60% of the frequent flyers are thinking about reducing their flights. And from our point of view, it's important to combine these thoughts about sustainability and how members behave in a sustainable way with the loyalty in order to protect the business in the near future.
Okay, thank you. That's very good. I'm sorry to rush you now, Marcus.
I just think that the big thing is really making that personalization a reality beyond what we know of that today with the technology that is coming, and delivering really in a sense that customers appreciate it.
Thank you. Michael at United, what is the next big thing in the loyalty field? Michael looks frozen. Okay, we'll skip to Nikolai. Nikolai to Amadeus. What is the next big development in loyalty?
The massive utilization of data science capabilities in the way you can identify and deliver the best possible offer to your customer along the entire travel journey, not necessarily only the airlines, but really from the way you shop to the way you come back.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Mohammed in Bahrain.
I believe that the cookieless future is going to have a lot of airlines invest a lot more into technologies that provide them the tools to provide an excellence in customer journeys, personalization, relying a lot on adapting a lot of their needs, driving changes from within the organization from the feedback that we get from our loyal customers, and utilizing these smart programs just as we have with IBS software for the future.
Thank you very much. So sustainability, personalization, use of data science, and investment. That seems like a pretty good summary of the state of affairs. I'd like to thank all the panelists. I'd like to thank all of the people in the audience. And I hope that some of you will be joining us for the evening session in about 20 minutes time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.